Alright, I hope I'm live right now. Let me see. Yeah. Hello everybody. Yeah, we are. And this time we are gonna be working on the frame section. So we have what we have already implemented the grouping the shape section that's been applied, implemented ultimately, and now the next one is gonna be the frames. So let's just simply go through that. Hopefully I'm audible and everything is clear. And here we are. So let's just simply delete all these things from here. And right now it's time to just simply get started. And let's see exactly how we can implement this, because the thing is that usually frames are a shape as well. So if I go here, go to this one especially, and if I delete it all, and let's check this thing out. I don't have any shapes yet but if I draw a shape that's drawn there, and if I just wrap it in a frame, this is just simply wrapped it in a frame. So once something is actually wrapped in a frame, then initially I had this diamond and then I have this frame, and whatever I draw in this frame, that automatically becomes the part of this. I can draw it anywhere, and if something is drawn in the boundary of the frame, so that becomes the part of the frame, so we can just simply move them here and there. And not only that, you can in fact have many shapes under many frames under one frame. So wrap in a frame, and this is just simply gonna keep going on. So the question is that how can we implement this? Having said that, so we have two frames and we have these, right? And now if I draw something here, this automatically goes there. So frame is the top level or the second top level. If we actually start from the last, if we actually start drawing from the last, so shape is gonna be the first one. So we just drew the ellipse, and that is this one. So as we are drawing the shapes, diamond, this one here. So if I delete this, line is gonna be here, and then the frame. So what is happening? First of all, just a minute, let me give it a try one more time, because the way it's actually being saved, that's quite important to just keep in mind. So we have this we have two shapes. Once we have two shapes, then we just simply wrap them in a frame. So the frame is gonna be third one. But if I just wrap only one in the frame, so I wrapped a rectangle, so the frame is just gonna be added below that, that is obviously. And when it comes to this, so frame is just below that. So in our shape, whenever we add any frame, the frame will be added beside the last shape, because right now what is happening, I even have ellipse. Now I have diamond and I have ellipse. I'm gonna be selecting both, and once both are selected, I'm gonna be wrapping them in a frame. So ellipse and diamond. and it turns out that a rectangle moved the top, then we have this frame, and this is the sequence. So this is how the sequence is actually changing. So the frame will the new frame will always be the last one. That is something we have to keep in mind, and on the basis of that thing we have to move the shapes as well. Suppose this is the one, ellipse is here, let's go to the diamond. As expected, frame and diamond both came, I mean both got sent to the front. Now is this front or back, that is something I have to see. So let me give it a color, probably this one. This needs to be given color as well. That means it is at the top of that. Not really. So the new frame is always above, yes or no? So first of all, if we are adding a new frame on any shape, so those shapes and the new frame, that's gonna be brought to the front. That simply means it will be sent at the last. Makes sense. And apart from this particular thing, if something goes beyond that particular shape, so that much area is not gonna be visible. How we'll be implementing this? Suppose this is like this, and I just selected the one thing is clear, that a frame is also a shape, and apart from this particular thing, when it is a frame, so it has a transparent color, fill, style, frame ID. Frame doesn't have any ID, that is crazy. How about this one? It doesn't. Okay, frame will not have the frame ID, frame will just have the ID. The shapes are gonna have in the frame ID. So the shape definitely has the frame ID. Great. And apart from this particular thing, it will have the ID, deleted false, that's fine as well. Name, opacity, roughness, roundness, stroke color, stroke style, stroke width, frame. So this is how things are gonna be going on. One thing that I'm able to understand, that is how suppose this is just the overall what a rectangle we draw, and when it goes, anything goes how are we sort of hiding it? And frame will always be below. That simply means this is going to be the top one, and above this all these things are going to come. Is that really so? Frame is above everything here, because we are gonna be drawing from here. That simply means, if let me Suppose this is gonna be the new frame. Once I have this ellipse, that's gonna be at last, and this particular frame will be on top of every previous shape. So the current one will always be at the top. That simply means we are rendering them from the beginning till the end, and this is gonna be the last one, hence this is at the top. This is the first thing. Okay, fine. And when we select, so if I directly click on the shape, suppose in this particular area, so the shape gets selected. One more thing, that is whenever I'm drawing a shape, I'm gonna be keeping at the last position of that particular index, and shapes are gonna actually come on top of that. That can be done. So if I've selected some shapes, I'm drawing a frame. So first of all, I'm gonna remove all those shapes, then I'm gonna push the frame to the array, and then gonna push those shapes. So this is how it can be done. So this is just the first thing. And the second thing is that now if the frame is actually the last one, sorry, the top one, and what the plan is that if it actually top one, so if I'm moving anything beyond that, I won't be able to see anything unless that's not part of that. Okay, interesting. This is the first thing. Let's see what the AI says regarding this, exactly how we can implement this. Once everything's clear, we'll start working on it. How can I implement framing in Excalidraw? Clone. A frame is fundamentally different from group. Group logical relationship between shapes. Frame, a shape that acts as a container for other shapes. If you are building an Excalidraw clone, I recommend implementing frames as first class shapes rather than extending your group system. Add new frame. As expected, it is asking us to just simply add the type XY, and it will have the name, background color, and whatnot. It behaves like a rectangle visually. Every shape knows which frame it belongs to, so ultimately a shape will have a frame ID, or it can be null as well. This is much easier than maintaining children arrays. What? So frame A, rectangle, circle, arrow, and frame ID is gonna be this. So rectangle will have this, circle will have this. This is much easier than maintaining the children arrays. That's right. Detect frame membership. Whenever drawing finishes, moving finishes, or pasting finishes, duplicating finishes, check which frame contains this shape. So ultimately get bounds of the shape. Once you get the bounds of the shape, you should have the bounds of the frames as well. So frame of frames, and once you get that, we have to check with because there can be many shapes frames, right? So we have to just simply check whether this particular bound is frame.bound has that particular bound. If this, return the frame ID, otherwise return null. That is fine. Moving a frame, when dragging a frame, this every child moves by the same delta x and delta y and all. So this is how it can be done, very similar to moving a group. Dragging a child, dragging a rectangle dot frame ID is gonna be frame A. Dragging a child, so rectangle dot frame ID frame A moves only the rectangle. After dropping recompute find containing frame rectangle, maybe it stage or leaves enter another frame. Drawing inside a frame. While drawing, mouse up, calculate frame under shape. Drawing inside a frame. While drawing, calculate frame under the shape. Shape.frame.id is gonna be this done. Rendering, your rendering order becomes frame children instead of all frames and all shapes, because children should appear visually above their own frame. So a simple approach is frame of frames, draw frame, and for shape of shapes, draw shape. So first of all we have to draw frames, and then we have to draw shapes, then draw shapes without a frame afterwards. Children first frame, otherwise clicking inside a frame always selects the frame. If user clicks rectangle, select a rectangle. If user clicks frame or border, select a frame. If user drags the frame, move children. Clipping optional. Real editors clip over flowing content. Canvas supports this nicely. Now what is this clip? Recommended data for model. Why not reuse groups? Groups are explicitly created by the user. Frames are spatial containers. Frame in a rectangle, a circle moves the rectangle outside, should automatically leave the frame. Groups don't work like that. Similarly, if you drag a rectangle into frame, it should automatically become part of that frame. A group never automatically gains or loses members based on position. I'd recommend for a project, since your editor already has clean system, I'd treat frame just as another shape type and add a frame ID to every non-frame shape. This creates a small use frame actions or frame module responsible for finding the containing frame, updating, moving, and so on and so forth. Alrighty, just a sec. So let's just simply continue and see what all we can do. So ultimately, when it comes to frames, so the way we have first of all, shape is gonna be frame, so that particular thing needs to be there. So when it comes to shapes right now, so we have a base shape, it will have all these things, it will even have the frame ID. So a particular shape can have frame ID, that's right, and that is it. Just having it is enough, if I'm not wrong. So if a shape has frame ID, and apart from this particular thing, we can have frames in there. So once our frames are actually created, we'll have a state for that as well, the way we have for group. And then from there I'll get the frames and check whether it actually belongs to that or not. So it has the frame ID. So where should we start from? Do we have the option here? We have wrap selection in frame, that's not bad. So we have to wrap it in a frame. Remaining things are gonna be implemented later, but first of all let's get the frame here. And framing means whatever the selected elements we have to remove them and then add the frame, then add the elements. This is gonna be the overall flow. Alright, so what can we do now? The very first thing, the very first thing is that work on the states. And one more thing, I think I should be getting it done tomorrow. It's too hot here, even it was raining. in the room, but let's see how many things we can just simply accomplish. So hooks renderer. Over here what I'm doing, I'm actually using preview shapes directly. So whenever I click that or they are selected, so preview shapes are being used over and over. That simply means interaction dot preview shapes are gonna be used again and again, and if that is equals to draw, use the preview shape, otherwise use this, that is fine. And apart from this particular thing is the transform interaction, and on the basis of that thing we are selecting this, and at the end of the day all the time there's gonna be a preview shape, so that's only gonna be the thing will be selected. And okay, that's fine. Okay, so what next? How about I need to have proper plan, otherwise I'll just keep thinking. So ultimately what all do we need to have here? We want frame. Let's just simply get it. In here, and even before that we had this. So I actually thought of storing groups, but it was no use, because then later we store the group IDs, so we can even remove this group later. That's fine. And apart from this particular thing, let's go one step back. Done. Let's talk about the framing stuff. So when it comes to framing, frames, so first of all it's gonna be a shape, that simply means, and the type is gonna be frame. This is the first thing. Storing is not a problem, because if we are selecting some images and then storing the things and all, so we'll have to make sure that the shape is always over the frame, and that is how it just simply goes on. And if the bounds of the shape goes beyond the frames bounds, then that does not become the part of frames at all. So ultimately here we are. Great. Anyway, coming back to this, we can create a figure. So this is the figure right here, and now if it goes beyond that, it is still visible. That's what I wanted to check, and it's still part of the frame. Interesting, quite crazy way to just simply make it work. So as long as even a single point is in the shape, it will be part of that. Not really. So how does it work? As long as half of the width, so how does it? Okay, fine, this much is okay. I think 50%, till 50% it works. Probably there is some tolerance for it. So at least how does it? Just a sec. It even I'm just trying to understand the logic exactly how it works. Framing. What kind of logic is this? Let's have a look at this. If it actually goes beyond that, as long as this part, at least 30% part is in the frame, that is still part of the frame. 30 or 40%. Yeah, 40%. Even below it's just the opposite. So I can say 60. This much, so that's gonna be around 40, that's gonna be around 40, and this is gonna be around 60. So this is how it just simply goes on. So ultimately there are gonna be some rules. Now how can we implement this, even if it's not gonna be exactly the same? So ultimately we need to have shape, and it will have the type, and type is gonna be frame, and shape we will have the frame ID as well. So this is how it's gonna be going on. Let's talk about frames. So suppose I added the frame actually got added, and now I started drawing the images, ultimately shapes. So shape will automatically be drawn over them if the shape belongs to that particular frame, and the logic we'll have to write. And apart from this particular thing, if a shape belongs to a particular frame, so that will be over that particular frame before the next one. And if that is not true, in that case that should be at the top. So the current the most latest shape that should become. The question is, do I need to maintain the state of frames? So suppose there can be many frames, right? And should I maintain the state of them or not? Suppose this is another one, and just simply create a figure, ultimately frame. So these are the two frames I have right now. If I just simply select them, so the frames are visible, nothing else. So when I select the shapes, and if there are frames, only frames should be visible. Let me see. So yeah, just the frames are gonna be visible there. The question is, even this frame, yeah, that's fine. So once this is done, so suppose I'm selecting this one, so it starts moving. So as soon as I click, I selected a frame. So once we select a frame, that is already an ID, shape, and we can just simply select the shapes and move them here and there easily. So it should be done as well. So I don't think we need it. In future if we need it, we'll see. I think this particular thing should be enough. Frame ID, but there's a case, that is a shape can actually have many frames. Sorry, a frame can actually have many shapes. So that is something we have to take care of as well. So this is the first shape. Second one, third one, fourth one, just like this. And this is the frame at the end. So now when it comes to this frame, that is actually at the end. So we have logged first, that is okay. Opacity, roughness, roundness, stroke, color, frame is this, and group IDs and this both are null. So how they are actually being selected for that? I think I need to maintain the frames history. Exactly what are the IDs of the frames? Simple approach, for frame and frames I'm gonna be getting the ID, and once I got the ID, so I'll draw the frame. So that particular frame is going to be drawn, and for shapes we are actually gonna check if the ID in the frames that actually belongs to one of the frames or not. If it does, then I have to draw the shape. We need to maintain the state. Now the question is that should it be global or the local one? And when it comes to frame, global one should be fine, and especially when this frame comes, so this is nothing but the shape, right? So it will be sort of like that. Interesting. So coming back to the store, editor store, let's create the slice, and this time this slice will be for what? For selection. Group was for selection, and selection slice. Right, you can create frames only after selecting a shape. So we have selected group IDs, we have bounds, but I'm not really using this group slice if I'm not wrong. Is this ever being used? At the end of the day, this is not being used directly. How about groups? Yeah, so these two are not being used. Remove it later. And let's work on the framing thing. So we are gonna have slice, and that's gonna be after selecting. So this one, frames. Now should I have frames IDs or the overall frame? Because frame is nothing but a shape, so we can easily get it. Frames IDs I'll have. That's gonna be an array, and set selected frames IDs. Again, this is gonna be more or less the same. We'll have updater. It's too hot, yeah. I mean, this is insane here. The place I'm sitting at. then after set we'll have that as well, right? So a callback is needed. This is how things are actually gonna be done. Then we need to return something, false, and selection slash set frames IDs. Coming back to this, let's write the logic for it. So frames IDs, and if type of updater, that can be either a function or just a value. So that is actually a function. In that case, updater, and we'll pass the value. So state dot frames IDs. Otherwise, just normal updater will update that. Before even it, I need to define proper types. So this frames IDs will only have the frame. But if I actually want to know, it will actually have all the things. It cannot just have the frame, unfortunately. We just need to have frames here. There can be multiple frames, and this is how it's gonna be going on. Because we need it later. Needing it later in the sense the way we had to store the groups. We are storing the group IDs ultimately. The same way, even we'll need to store it, and then so that we can check the ID. Okay, so this particular thing is done. Not done yet, of course. Once we have this, frames, we have set frames. Let's go here. This group actually needs to be removed. So because that's not being used, we have selected shape IDs, group IDs, so that's more than enough. And we have frames, any type for now. We'll see exactly what all we need to store. And set frames. And it's gonna be sort of the same. There's gonna be updater. Updater can be an array of any, or the previous values, any this. We are gonna be returning any this, and that will be returning another. Alrighty, then this is the we have to fix that add the types as well. So, and types, but before even that, come on, that's too hard. But can't really stop working on this, can we? Let's work on it for a while. After that, I will stop. I'll work on it tomorrow. But before that, we need to go to types probably, and in the types, what all we have the base shape, we have image shape, let's have the rect in here, just like this, probably here at the end, image. So this is gonna be frame shape that extends this, and this will have text as well, or name. Name is actually gonna be string. So the frame will have the name, and the remaining things are gonna be fine. Ultimately, it will have the same type. As for the shape, it can even be this as well. and as soon as I did this, I am getting errors at many places, so we even need to fix that. Yeah, so we just changed the overall types. Let's talk about this stuff here. Groups, they need to be removed, so let's just simply get rid of this. Alrighty, so we are gonna have set frames here, and this seems to be sort of alright. So this is done, and now onwards we have to store the frames, and ultimately frames is a sort of a rectangle, but it even has the naming thing in it. That is it. That's the only difference. It can be made like we can work on this. It may not be exactly the same, but at least we'll have this functionality at the end, and working on this functionality isn't that hard as either. So because we've already created groups, right, so we can even create this as well. Let me switch on the fan right now. Even if my battery goes down, it doesn't really matter. I'm just suffering from a lot of it. Alrighty, here we are, and let's see what all we can do here. At least there's gonna be less heat in the room now. Get rid of this now, and overall there are no errors, and it's time to start working on it, right? So when it comes to working on this, let's go to the types as well again one more time. And we have a frame shape, so we need to keep this thing in mind as well. That simply means this should be frame, come on, type can actually be frame as well. This is better. So now what we'll do, at least we don't have any errors here. So the way of storing the data is done. Now implementation is remaining. So when it comes to implementing that, so we need to do what? We need to create some kind of frame that is visible by default, right? So that, but before even that, we need to create a demo frame before anything else, so that we can start working from there on. But before even this framing thing, we have components. Inside that we have what do we have? We actually have to go to context menu, selected shape context menu, and just in here we have this wrap selection in frame, but that's the opposite way as well. What? Groups does not exist, that's fine. So once we actually wrapped something in a frame, we can remove the figure, and once the figure is removed, the shape will be alone. I mean, it will be free. Fine. So we have to have that option as well. So coming back to remove all elements from shape, select all elements. So we have removed all elements from the shape. So we can just simply delete the frame. That would be the simplest thing, right? Remove the frame itself, because that's the same thing we have here. So we can create a figure. Once the figure is created, we can change, we can remove the figure. So this way figure can actually be removed as well. Okay, so let's have these two things. So first of all, we have wrap selection in frame, and probably another one is gonna be, come on, another one is gonna be remove frame. Remove frame, and when we are actually removing the frame, so all the elements will automatically be removed from there, right? So we don't really need to worry about just removing the elements and keeping the selection there. Or we can go with this way as well, like when we move something and drop that inside the frame, at that time that particular shape becomes the part of the frame. So that can be actually done as done too. So now it's completely up to us which way we go with. Remove all elements from frame. We can even have this, either remove the frame and remove all elements from frame, or probably you can have one more, and that will be remove frame. So ultimately we could have had all these three. Going ahead, the first let's work on this handle. What do we want to handle? So when it comes to handling this, so even we have handle ungroup selection. Haven't we worked on this? We have grouped the things, we haven't really ungrouped them. So yet to work on this, and not really difficult, so will be done tomorrow. So complete this. Ungrouping is simple, I mean that's not really a big problem, that can easily be done, but let's not worry about this. Then the first one is gonna be handle wrap selection in frame. Handle wrap selection in frame. Handle remove all elements from shape. Handle remove all elements from frame. Handle remove frame. Let's just simply create some of the functions that are going to be used. Even this one is going to be quite a big one. We haven't really implemented all the functionalities. Later we'll have to refactor it too. This is the first one. This is the second one. And this is the third one. We are having even one more functionalities. Alright, just a minute, give me a sec. Okay, so we have the functions ready right now, and now we have to implement the logic. Great. So what is the next thing? First of all, we have to select the image. It's the same way we are doing handling the things here. So let's just simply copy. Probably a few things can be helpful here, and see what all can be used. Creating a frame means what? Creating a frame means ultimately, when you say handle wrap selection in frame, so you are altogether creating a new shape. That's the first thing. In the shapes width and height, that's going to be decided by the selected shapes width and height. So that's gonna be the sort of the bounding box of the shape. Let's see. Selected, we don't need this. This is actually gonna be frame ID whenever it gets called. We have to set the shapes, and even to be precise, we have to definitely set the shape. But it's not just exactly setting the shape, it is more than that. More than means what? First of all, get the selected shapes. After that, get the group bounds of the shapes. Then calculate group bounds. Once we have everything, then calculate x, y, width, height, at least these things, and just like this, and assign a demo name as well to the frame. Then create the shape, push the shape in set the frame in such a way that it's always at the bottom of the selected shapes. Once that is done, just think what all we can do. Then we can just simply get them done one by one. And once this is done, then after that implement a frame drawing. We don't really have to implement a drawing frame. We don't really get this option directly, right? Then in that case, implement a frame drawing when it's needed, and have create an input for the name so that name can be modified. For this, create a stereo or something. What can be better way, like directly adding it in here? Yeah, directly having that would be fine. Create text to that's gonna be input box. Add a text input and render it via render it at x and y coordinates. And once we've done that, after that what? Configure the logic, like when shape becomes the part of frame and when it doesn't, implement just frame resizing and implement moving the shape frame along with the shapes. So yeah, these are the things that we have to go on with, and there can be definitely something or the other missing, but once we have gone through these things, overall the result that we want is gonna be here. Simple. Let's work on the first one, selected shapes, this part. And one more thing, when we create a frame, so we are already maintaining an array, so on the basis of that thing the name is gonna be decided. For example, if I select this and simply create a frame, this is gonna be frame. Okay, the name is always gonna be the frame. That's not bad either. Which one is better, editing it right here or probably both the ways? You can edit from here as well, you can edit from here as well. So later we may be having this functionality to this feature as well. Again, this is all about future. So as for right now, let's just simply implement it here. So whenever we are working with text, that's gonna be somewhere here. So if we click, double click, then we are able to edit that. Otherwise, once we click once, so we just able to move it. Okay, set selected shapes and get the group bounds of the shapes. This can be done easily, so let's do that. Having said that, let's get it done, later we'll see. So first of all, we need to have the selected shapes, and we already have selected shape IDs. Great. Once we have the selected shape IDs, so const selected shapes, shapes dot well, we don't really have shapes, so we'll have to have it here. We got the shapes. Shapes dot, what do we need to do? We have to filter, right? But before even that, as we have the selected shape ID, so const selected is gonna be new set selected shape ID shape dot filter shape, and if selected has shape dot ID, that simply means we got the selected shapes. Get the group bounds of the shapes. Group bounds of the shapes. Getting the group bounds of all the shapes is not really a problem. We can easily do that because we already have the functions ready for that particular job. So const now they are actually gonna be frame bounds, because even if they are the bounds of the shape, but then they are gonna be the bounds of the frame. In that case, get group bounds, it just needs the shapes, so pass the selected shapes, and that should be enough. So this way we are gonna get frame bounds. Once we have that, then we have to calculate x and y. So calculating x and y is not really a big problem. So const get coordinates. How do we get the values from frames? Like, is there any function for it? Of course we know how to do that, but is there a function for that already or not? Let me see. Get resize handle, get size, get stroke, get text dimensions, get no, we don't really have that. So this is gonna be get let's write the logic. Have a to do here. Create a later create a function for this, and the function can be get what can we name it? Get coordinates. I don't know what to name that. We'll see what to name it later, but as for right now, I'm just simply gonna be having it here. So once we have frame bounds, so I can say min x, min y, max x, and max y. Okay, we have it. What is the next thing? The next thing is that now const point is gonna be, or start point, that's gonna be x is gonna be equals to min x, and y is gonna be min y. Const 5 is gonna be width will be min x plus width max y minus min x. So they're sort of the starting point and ending points. We can normalize it, right? Can't we? This can definitely be normalized. So let's do one thing. We have the start point, const end point, y is gonna be max y. Normalize, we already have this function. And don't we have that? Normalize. Come on, I should have it here. That is get normalized. Transform scale shape in group. Resize free draw. Get group. There was something called normalize, if I'm not wrong. Normalize. Normalize rect, that's the one. It gets the start point and end point, right? Normalize rect. Start point and end point. This way we got the x value, rect values. Good stuff. Okay, once we got the rect values, then we are done with this. We are done with this. We are done with this. Align a demo name to the frame. Okay, fine. Let's create a shape this time. So the next to do is actually create a frame shape. Frame is going to be equals to dot 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 rect. This is the first thing. Name is gonna be equals to frame. Anything else? I don't think so. This should be sort of enough. We'll see later exactly what happens. Once we have the same, assign a demo name done, create a shape, that is done. Set the frame in such a way that it's always at the bottom of the selected shape. But before even that, let's remove all these three things from here. We have to set the frame now. Yes or no? We even need to have the frame ID. So name is gonna be there, frame ID is gonna be there. That's it. Not really. One more thing. Update all the shapes with the frame ID. Even that needs to be done, yeah. So we have the frame, and once we have this, we have to set it so that we have a shape, a frame. Let's get rid of this part. We already have selected here, so we do not even need to create it in here. So let's get rid of this. Selected was already present. Const set frame, and that's gonna be use set frame, and it does not exist. In that case, let's go to the store editor, selectors, probably inside selections, export const frame, use editor store, frames. So this is gonna be use frames. Fine, not problematic thing. Export const use set frames, okay. So we have these two, and done. Now I should be able to get this. So set frame is gonna be use set frames like this. Once we have it, set frames, I'm gonna be getting the previous frames. Once I get the previous frame, so I have to return an array of previous frames, and there's gonna be new one as well. There's gonna be new frame as well. This is not it. We've done this thing, but we have to update the selected shapes. So that simply means we have to set the shapes again. I think think this logic can be used here again. First of all, we set the value, then we just simply updated that. So let's get it here. So what do we want to do? We want to set the shapes again, ultimately updating the value. So getting the previous shapes. Once we got the previous shapes, we are mapping to them, and once we are mapping, so I'm just simply checking that if selected shape has the previous shape ID, that simply means that's the selected one, if that is the selected one. So we just have to add the frame ID in there. Any problem? No problem as such. So we have done this particular part as well. Set the frame in such a way that it's always at the top of the selected shapes. So right now what we have done, we have sort of stored the data. To check this, but I'll have to fix this first of all. That is export groups. So that's the selector if I'm not wrong. Get rid of this. Now what do I have to do here? That redux store. So we have groups, we have frames as well now. Great. So as we have frames, so this is the value, and we can do what? Wrap selection in frame. As we wrap the selection in frame, we got x, y, width, height, frame ID, and the name is frame. This is the frame that we got. Again, we have to focus on many more things, like especially when the shapes are actually added. So when the frame, is the frame actually added to the shapes or not? Not really. So the frame is a shape as well. It has the frame ID, that is good, and frame itself is a shape, so that needs to be added there as well. So we've changed this. Great. And apart from this particular thing, we have changed this all. Mapping, it has overwritten this, and what we want is something like this, that I'm gonna be returning an array. Again, the one that I had from the beginning, I'm gonna be destructuring that. So all the previous values, they in the selected shapes, they need to have the frame ID if they are the selected ones. And apart from this particular thing, we are gonna be adding one more, and that's gonna be the frame. When we are adding the frame, one thing that I need to keep in mind, that is the frame should always be at the bottom. That simply means we'll have to make it the starting I think this should be fine. Frame, what is the issue? X number with frame ID is missing the following properties: frame, shape, or type in ID. Okay, fine. ID doesn't. Okay, interesting. Sorry, that was my bad. The thing is that it should actually be ID and the frame ID. Apart from this particular thing, it even needs to have the type. So the type is going to be frame here. What is the next issue? String is not assignable to type frame. String is not assignable. So we can go on like this, but I don't want to. So in that case, one anyway. So we have frame as the not drawable tool here, come on. Drawable tool are gonna be this only, so frame is not assignable to drawable shape, and this doesn't need to be. So the type is actually gonna be string. The thing is that frame shape incorrectly extends the ultimately the type is actually gonna be frame, and what can we do? Pick. Do we have to pick it or we have to omit it? We have to omit this. Have we omitted it here? Yeah, we have omitted it here, depending on the date. So let's do the same here as well. Now we are gonna be omitting few things from the base shape. That's crazy, but okay, let's see. Omit from the base shape, and what do we want to omit? That is gonna be the type. That is it. Should be fine. We are just simply omitting that, and then we are defining the type here. So that's it. So we can remove this as const part from here. Still, string is not assignable to type frame. It is saying that this is string. Interesting. So we'll have to make sure that this is const. So ultimately the type is gonna be the frame only. It cannot be any string. It needs to be the frame itself, and that is why we are just simply named it as const. Const in the sense read only. It cannot be changed though, and that is how it just simply goes on. So we have done this part as well. So let's check this thing out. We have shapes. One shape we have 0 front, 0 row. Wrap in a frame. So now we have two shapes. We have one frame. So this is the frame we have. Name is the frame. Type is the frame. These are the two shapes we have. The first one has type, name, height, width and all, and the second one goes the same way. It even has many more things, so later we can add more things there as well. When it comes to a frame can itself duplicate. Okay, never mind. Now what is the next thing? Set a frame in such a way that it's always at the bottom of the selected shape. This part is done for now, but when we actually move a shape, at that time we have to take care of it. Implement a frame drawing when it's needed. Create an input. We have the frame now, we need to draw a frame. So probably this is the thing that we need to focus on. Create an input for name so that name can be modified. So this is all the UI part. Yeah, so we can just simply start working on these two. I'm just simply gonna take a break. I don't know, I'm just feeling a bit down for some reason. These are the to-dos that we have. We are gonna be just simply getting them done one by one, and at the end of the day, once all these things are configured and done, this framing hopefully it will start working. Otherwise we'll make it work. So by the end of tomorrow's noon or something, this framing thing will be ready. Then we will refactor the code, and after that we'll switch to the backend part, because this is the front end only we've been working on. So soon, probably from tomorrow onwards, we will start working on the backend and integrating that and all. Anyway, I'll be catching up soon. Probably I'll be back after a live after 20 minutes or something, and after that I'm actually gonna be talking about DevOps part and all, not this thing today anymore. We'll be talking about some other stuff. Anyway, I'll be catching up soon. Bye bye.